Hello and welcome to the Futro Hidden Movie Gems podcast. I am your host, Ty Christensen. Whoa, I should learn to say it, not spray it. All right, we've got Cameron Mickle on the pod.
Don't let me leave, Murph! Don't let me leave!
Murph! Let's hear your best, Murph. Murph! And we've got Jordan Christensen.
Every hour on this planet is 7 years back home.
Oh, I tried to do the math today. So every 510 seconds is a year. So break that down, right? Do I have that right? Every hour? Yeah, I broke it down from hours, minutes to hours. Break it all the way down because it's 7 years.
Like every 10 minutes is a year.
Yeah, basically. So 10 minutes, 510 seconds.
Pretty crazy.
That's like 6 times 10. Yeah, 600 seconds. Yeah, I was close. 510 seconds is a year, technically.
It's like 9. It's like 8.5 minutes, I think.
Yes, 8.5 minutes is 1 year. So I was trying to break it down to seconds because when you listen to the song, guys, we're getting into this movie. Interstellar.
You're referring to the score Mountains?
Mountains.
That's the name of it.
Yes, but those aren't mountains.
Those aren't mountains.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh,
That's no
guys.
moon.
That's no moon. That's, yes, very akin to a Star Wars Copa. Cling, cling, the freaking sound. Guys, I'm getting anxiety talking about this movie, but what a beautiful movie. Guys, we are talking about Interstellar. This movie came out in 2014. Directed by Christopher Nolan, written by Christopher Nolan and his brother Jonathan Nolan. Gotta have some love for Jonathan. Dude, I bet he's the one that writes them all and Nolan just directs. I bet he's the storyteller and Nolan is the
Then why would they put him on for writer as well, nerd?
I'm just saying, maybe he has a good understanding with his brother, you know? I bet their lives turned out kind of like The Prestige, you know?
And directed by Christopher.
He and his brother were always trying to outdo each other, and like with magic, you know, with movies, which I love. By the way, I didn't even mention The Prestige, just like how all of Nolan's films are about filmmaking, because we talked about it in Inception, where you have all the cast and crew that help make a movie work. The Prestige is literally, he tells you there are 3 acts, and each one of them is an act. I just love that. So anyway, leading into this movie, Interstellar, there's a lot about movie making in this one, but this movie is so wonderful. I've seen this movie twice. Count them, twice. I saw it in the theater, and I was terrified to watch it again. The first time I saw it in the theater, I went out and I stargazed that night, and I was just looking up there thinking, what is out there? What are the possibilities?
Were you stargazing because Kelly kicked you out of the house and you were just sitting out in the...
No. Although, yeah, it's like I was causing too much noise. I could not stop talking about this movie after I left it.
Well, no, because that was the same night, Ty. When we saw it the first night, wasn't that when it was? Didn't we watch Dumb and Dumber 2 the same day, or was that a different time?
That was Mockingjay Part 1.
Oh, that's right.
That we saw Dumb and Dumber 2. Yes, I see. It's so funny that you mentioned that. Bless our dad, R.I.P. He forgot Mama's anniversary, so that was nice.
Yeah, and I just watched The Family Man, so that totally reminds me of that. That's funny.
Spent all day at the movie theater with his sons forgetting his wife's anniversary. Too funny. It happens to the best of us. What can I say? So, watching this movie, I was just blown away. This happened when I watched The Dark Knight. It happened when I watched Inception. It happened when every single one of Christopher Nolan's movies. When I watched Tenet, every single time I leave the theater, I am blown away, and I can't help but thinking about the movie and what I just watched. There's so much to take in. There's so many emotions. These movies sweep me away.
Well, watching it the second time, did it still live up to the hype as the first?
I loved it even more, guys. I cannot believe it. I loved it even more. Now, to be fair, I watched it on my TV, so it wasn't as grand of a spectacle, and there was a little knock against it, but I caught more things, and I appreciated so much more about the movie this time, because, to be honest...
It's a perfect film.
As far as visuals, this is a beautiful visually speaking, but as far as Inception and the visuals in that movie and in other films like The Dark Knight, there are impressive visuals. This one has amazing, beautiful visuals, but it's not style over substance, because this film is so rich, heavy with just drama and pressure and the world and the stakes. It is so tangible. It's so real and believable. Love it. I loved it even more the second time. I can't believe it. And I was so tepid about watching this. And also, it's 2 hours and 49 minutes long, so I, don't make that much time to make an exception for a 3-hour movie. But it's a commitment, yes.
Worthy commitment.
I'm so glad I watched this again, and I'm now going to watch it more frequently because I absolutely love this movie.
Thank you.
And it's better than I remembered. But even after I saw it, like I said, going outside and just being blown away, like absolutely blown away. So let's get into it. Cameron, how about you? The first time you watched it and the first rewatching for the pod.
So this one I am proud to say I did watch in the theater. Although I did watch it in the theater with...
We had your booster seat, right? So you could see over the chair in front of you, Cameron?
Yeah. The only problem with watching this in the theater was I watched it with Grant, Mom, and Dad, which isn't always the best crowd to watch movies with.
Not always the best.
And I remember being I was 14 at the time, so I was like, that was pretty cool.
Shout out, Grant was a lot of fun to watch Venom with. I just wanted to make that caveat. There's some movies that are fun to watch movies with Dad with, like anything starring Bruce Willis and Gerard Butler.
Well, I was shocked Dad didn't like this, Cameron, because he's like obsessed with Contact. This movie is Contact.
Yeah,
it's a
modern
movie. It is literally Contact. It is modern day Contact, and it is Apollo 13. Yes,
it is both of those movies. They just didn't like the whole message of like it was us.
No, but they misunderstood it.
I know they said they
misunderstood it.
Gosh dang! Don't attack me, nerd.
It's all your fault, Cameron.
Cameron, yeah. Why didn't you explain it to them when you were there with them? You could have saved them.
He has a 14-year-old, so definitely I was also very, so I'm a huge Christopher Nolan fan, but I hadn't, like, the first time I ever watched Interstellar, I gave it 8 out of 10. I thought it was really good, but I wasn't like blown away. And then holy cow, watching it again after my mission blew my mind. This has so many good aspects of this movie. It's just fetching masterpiece, dude. Holy cow.
Wait, so what did it go up from an 8 to what?
10 out of 10. It's number 11 on my list of all-time movies. So yeah, you could say it made a big jump.
Is that right?
Yeah.
No way. Is that right? Has that changed since you've seen it again? Because I can't remember when we did the top 10. Was that 11? Interstellar.
It's 11.
It's there. That's
Wait,
right.
I thought you said it was your third favorite Nolan movie, so it's your second favorite.
Yeah, it's my second favorite.
Okay.
Inception's my third favorite.
Oh, okay. Interstellar is my third favorite. Yeah.
It's crazy that I say that now because I would say this emotionally registers more than Inception does for sure. And now I think I like it more, which is crazy because I didn't think I would. And I do have problems with the movie, and we'll get into that later. But this movie, holy cow. Definitely gives you the feels more than Inception does, but Inception's still good.
Well, it's because I don't exactly feel for his wife in Inception. She's a fucking psychopath.
But you still feel for Cobb, right? I mean, he's a tortured soul. He just wants to get back to his kids. I can understand that. But you're right, though. Like, this one is just so much heavier.
Yeah,
heavy.
See?
It's heavy. Muy heavy.
I asked my college professor, because he's from England, and I'm like, so you and Christopher Nolan, you're like a fan of all his work? And I'm like, what do you think of Interstellar? And he's like, it's a bit heavy-handed.
Heavy-handed. Hey, there's that word heavy. Is there something wrong with the Earth's gravitational pull in the future? I kept thinking that in this movie because their gravity. This has 80% gravity. This has 140% gravity. It's of Earth's gravity, right? It's like, it's hard to move around on this planet. Cameron, keep going.
I just really appreciated it, and I watched it with a bunch of my roommates, and man, like Ty said, it's a commitment, but man, it's a worthy commitment.
Well, and didn't you watch like all of Nolan's films with your roommates?
Yeah, we did like a Nolan marathon about 3 months ago. And we watched every single movie, went through like Memento, Interstellar, the Dark Knight trilogy. It was, except for The Following, which...
Would you add that one to the list, or you're like,
I don't know. I think it's film. I think it's a more of an enjoyable film, like talking about film, than like an enjoyable watch, you know?
Well, I just think it might not be a popcorn crowd flick. It's more of like a film study flick.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like I enjoyed watching it by myself, but I don't know if I'd ever recommend it to anyone, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of like Blue Ruin and Green Room. It's like Green Room is a better crowd movie. Blue Ruin is like
a fantastic film.
You have other thoughts about that? No, sorry.
No, but yeah, it's like get back to Interstellar.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, Interstellar. My first time watching this, I was in the theater. I watched it with Ty and Maddie and Mom and Dad, I believe. Right? It was Mama Kay.
That was the crowd. Yeah, all in St. George, Utah.
Yes, so we watched it with them, and I actually was a little upset the first time watching it, only because it was like it struck a little too close to home for me, because it was like I loved it and was upset at the same time, because the whole idea of the dad leaving, because our parents are divorced, so we only got to see our dad like 3 times a year. And so when he left his family, behind and at the very end, I was like, maybe he learned his lesson, like he should have been there for the family. And it was like, no, you should go and explore. And I've got my own family now. It's like, oh no. And I don't know. I'm not saying I wanted dad to like suffer and stuff. I wanted,
yeah, it would be suffering just waiting around for his daughter to die.
Well, no, not that. I meant like not leaving her. I just like.
Oh, yeah, just an agony being on Earth.
Yeah, because I love the idea because when he's like, "Don't leave, Mirth, don't let me leave," like, oh my gosh, that got to me. I was just in tears. That gets to me every time. Very powerful. Struck a little too close to home.
A cry-worthy moment, Jordan.
No,
I'll give it to
mine is back from the planet and watching 23 years of footage and watching his children age in recorded messages that they sent him. That gets me every time.
Yes. Oh, well, Casey Affleck, goodness gracious, of course they get him to act every time when he's losing kids. He always plays the most depressing roles. He's so good. I love Casey Affleck. I'm a Casey head now, so... And then rewatching it for the podcast, I watched it last month. I watched it last month, and then I watched it again for the podcast, and obviously loved it. It's amazing. One of the greatest scores of all time. I think so.
For sure, it's an impressive film. So let's real quick. I did forget to mention the stars of the movie. It does star Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, I thought you meant like the stars, in the sky.
Oh, and we forgot to do the plot of Prestige as well.
That's why I chose that word, though. The plot, yeah. Oh, I didn't even do the plot. You're right. A team of explorers travel through a wormhole in space and attempt to ensure humanity's survival.
Can we draw all the parallels to Christ and stuff? Like, holy cow, they send 12 out, like 12 apostles, and that's why I'm like so upset that mom and dad didn't catch all that.
Yeah, but again, it very obviously, like, you hear the dialogue and he goes, like, what did this? Like, God? And he's like, no, not God, like, ourselves. But what's interesting about that, and in the religious faith of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, there's a lot about talk of exaltation where eventually you'll become like God someday. And the idea that these beings that are fourth dimensional or fifth dimensional, the way I view it is they're essentially exalted beings. They're all powerful, all knowing, helping three-dimensional beings like us, human beings, eventually reach that potential.
Well, I also see it like too many people think God's going to come down and show them something, or God, he's like, oh, give me a sign, God. And it's like, God uses people as his hands. Like, we are his instruments. So
we're his angels.
But he seriously uses us. Like, that's how it works.
Yeah, we all have our clarence.
Let me get into the stars real quick, okay? We've got Matthew McConaughey. Let me just finish this. Matthew McConaughey, Anne Hathaway, Jessica Chastain, Ellen Burstyn. That's a great last name. Mackenzie Foy, John Lithgow, Timothy Chalamet, David Oyelowo. That's a cool name. Colette Wolfe. Can't forget Michael Caine.
Or Casey Affleck.
And got Wes Bentley. Yeah, Wes Bentley, Andrew Borba. And it definitely has Matt Damon, if you forget. Matt Damon is in this fetching
I need
movie.
to know, because at every football game I go to, they always say, do not go gentle into that dark night. Did that come from this? No, I mean, that's a famous quote. From
the poem, right?
Yeah. But I'm wondering, Cameron, did that become big from Interstellar, do you think, again?
Do not go gentle into the dark night.
I've never heard that at a football game, but...
Cameron, every football game I go to, you guys yell that all the time. You guys yell it at each other. You go, do not go into the dark night. Yeah.
We do not yell that. We're not a bunch of poets. This is Dead Poets Society. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, Jordan, I don't know
what football games do you go
heard
to?
That.
I've heard that they play.
Like, what?
That's a really funny thing. I'm going to start using that when I play Call of Duty. Do not go gentle into the dark night.
I promise, Cameron, I've heard it.
I've never
That's
heard
so
of the
funny,
game,
Jordan.
but it might have become
I'm
popular.
pretty sure I've even heard you say it to your buddies.
So funny.
At a game,
so
I've
funny.
never said...
As you guys are giving each other chest bumps. Oh, do not give each other dark night.
Pretty sure.
I'm pretty
Jordan's
sure
making up stuff
that's
now.
not what
Jordan,
happened.
you're beyond parody right now. Yeah.
What the fuck?
I'm serious.
I've never heard that.
Let's get into two of our favorite things about this movie. Let's start you off, Jordan.
Two favorite things?
Two favorite things.
Yeah, obviously.
That's usually what we do.
Yeah.
Two? Was that
two?
Two favorite
Did you
things?
say two? Yes. I will
To my
dive
ears to see.
directly into one of the greatest composers of all time, Hans Zimmer. I just got to say, I am so glad he keeps working with Christopher Nolan. And the music in this movie is unbelievable. And it's every song, it just kind of adds to that suspense. Like Ty mentioned, just the ticking and that sound. You know it's like time is passing, and the longer, even the shortest amount of time that they're there is years flying by. So it's so unbelievably stressful, and he got the perfect composer to do it. And it goes along with this scene every time. And I know it's so weird. Like, I don't know, this doesn't seem like a scene you should get into tears at, but the scene where he's like, we're gonna attach, or what does he say when it's like, when
The airlock?
yeah, to the airlock, remember, and it's spinning. What does he say?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, so is it when Matt Damon's doing, or is
No,
it
Matt
when they're
Damon. So
doing
yeah,
it?
Matt Damon just bursts and then he flies out, and then he says, "What does he say when he flies up and he's ready to?"
Oh, he goes. He's like, it's not a good idea. It's not safe. And he goes, it's necessary. Right?
No, but before he says that, he's like, "I'm gonna attach," or something like that. We're going to.
I wish I knew the line. Yeah.
Anyways, when he says that line, though, I get like emotional.
Oh, it's not possible. No, it's necessary. Is that the one?
No. It's right before that line. Anyways, doesn't matter. So
Okay.
he just says, "We're gonna attach." I'm trying to think of the word attach, like whatever that word is, but
Lock?
Airlock seal.
we're gonna lock.
Lock on.
Maybe. Anyways, but when he says it and the music comes in right after he says it, really powerful, and that just gets to me, and I just like waterworks. I don't know why. It's not like a sad scene, but it's like, it's just
It's
this.
super emotional. Like I was at the edge of my seat this entire scene, dude. Like
Yes.
I have a really funny video coming out that I'm making, so I'll send it to you guys when I'm done with it. But after I watch this movie,
Yeah.
you'll understand. So
I'm surprised I didn't say so many other quotes. He's like, you got a 50% chance you're going to break your own mask. Those are the best odds I've ever had.
that's so sad I've ever had.
In years.
Such a psycho.
Oh,
Oh, and then, I mean, it's got some just powerful, powerful moments based on the songs and some of the greatest scenes that I love to rewatch. So, like when they're on that planet.
I just like saying, "Say it, don't spray it," in Matthew McConaughey's voice. All right. Say it, don't spray it. All right.
Doesn't he say it
It's
to the
the
black
guy
guy
who's
too,
watched
who
him.
Yeah.
just been sitting on the thing for 15 years, and the first interaction is "say it, don't spray it."
No, that was before he goes.
It was before. I thought it was after too.
Because
Cameron,
of Honest
but yeah.
Trailers, they made it.
They made it seem that way, but it's like he insulted him before he went down. He was really nice to him afterwards, but
Can you imagine, dude?
That's so
15
sad.
Yeah, because he's like, oh, look at that black hole.
27 years.
And he's like, say it, don't spray it.
27 years. Yeah, he got super excited when he saw the black hole, dude. Or was it the wormhole? No, it's the black hole.
Oh, was it the
Yeah.
wormhole? I can't remember.
Uh,
It was a hole.
I can't remember which.
You got it.
It was one of the space holes. It was the universe's. Okay, all right. Now the record's set straight. Well, one of them was and one of them was the mouth. I don't know which.
It
one
was.
It was.
Oh, but I'm.
I hate you so much.
Guys, this has been Futro Hidden Movie Gems signing out. Guys, my two favorite things. No, Cameron, I'm going to get you go first because I'm worried I'm going to take yours. Go for it.
You can go. That's fine.
Guys, the suspense in this movie really works. And I love this movie. This movie builds so much suspense. Guys, I got to tell you, right now, I'm seeing I don't know what's going on, but the world seems to be on fire. Everyone seems to be at each other's throats. This is how it all goes down. It's like we're all just living in the dirt.
Yeah, and it even
the
says
answer's
mask
out
up.
there.
And I was like, oh.
Mask up.
I have to just mention your theory on Tenet. Like, Christopher Nolan saw the future. I believe that 100%. Watching this movie and all his other movies, I'm like, Christopher Nolan knew. He just knew.
He just knew, man. Like that's the future where we're headed, man.
Clearly,
I-
Jordan
speaking
and
of they
Ty
knew
are
quotes?
convinced that what's called Christopher Nolan is a fifth dimensional being, dude. What the fudge?
Ty,
He is a
speaking of
fifth
they knew quotes, you said that was from, what did you say that
They
was?
knew, Robbie. It's from Spotlight.
Yeah, but you quoted it from something else.
Mark. Well, I was referring to Mark Ruffalo, but I was just saying they knew, Robbie. They knew, and they buried it the whole time.
Okay, but I thought you were quoting it. Okay, so you know what movie it's from. I was just making sure.
Yeah, from Spotlight. Yeah.
Well, because Cameron said Collateral, and then you quoted that, and I was like, that has nothing to do.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
But Mark Ruffalo. Oh, I'm an idiot.
Yeah, because he mentioned he was in the movie. Yeah, and I didn't know that Mark Ruffalo was in that movie. So, real quick, this movie build suspense. And I liked how they made science seem intense. Like, I don't know. Like, this movie is so stressful.
Yeah, how about
we mentioned the aforementioned
explaining it with the little paper
airlock
poking
scene.
the hole?
Yeah,
I
dude,
love it.
shout out
Event
to
Horizon did
Horizon,
it. They did it
yeah.
in this one. That's
And
right,
Stranger
that's right.
Things.
And Stranger Things, yeah, the Upside Down or whatever. But this one, man, what I really like about Nolan, and like, again, to go to the suspense, everything seems very believable. And I know that there's a lot of things that are unbelievable, but he always manages to ground his movies in reality. I very rarely have to suspend my disbelief greatly because the visuals that he uses, the science that he uses, the shots that he uses, it makes everything seem very real. Like, this is like a dystopian world where your school literally tells your children what they're going to end up doing because everyone's a crap out of luck. We need farmers because we're all starving. And we keep running out of crops because all the dirt around, keeps blowing up and ruining the crops. It's like, he just does a really good job at like creating these worlds and these universes. And he never reuses them. It's like an episode of Rick and Morty. You could make like TV shows off of these ideas. You really could. And it's just amazing. Like,
Yeah, they did. They made
building.
Cube 2 Hypercube.
If you can call that a film.
My goodness. So that's one of my favorite things is the suspense and then the world building, just unbelievable. And there's so much more I could say. And lastly, I was just going to say the allegory, and we'll get into that later. But that's my third favorite thing. It should be my number one.
This movie's about on par with Gravity.
Oh, gosh. I actually have never seen Gravity. I should see it.
No.
Shouldn't knock it. But I watched that other space movie with Ryan Reynolds and Jake Gyllenhaal, the
Life.
Live or whatever.
Oh, how do you ruin a movie
Life.
with Jake Gyllenhaal and Ryan Reynolds
I know.
and have a trailer that's 10 times more interesting than the movie?
Try to be Alien. That's how you do it.
And then have the worst
then
plot
fail
twist
at
of
it.
all time. Boo.
That was so predictable. I knew before they did it. I was like, that's
You
how
knew
they're going
that?
to end this movie.
You knew?
I knew, Jordan. They covered it up. They knew the whole time. Cameron, what are your two favorite things from this movie?
Okay, I know Jordan already mentioned the soundtrack, but it's so nice I need to say it twice, dude. This thing is
It
the
is
most
so
beautiful
unbelievable.
thing
So
ever.
good.
This is one of those few. I love listening to soundtracks, and I have like a lot on my music library. But this is one that I will listen to like on a weekly basis. Like my
No Time for Caution is the best song. Sorry.
mountains, and
Yeah.
then S.T.A.Y. That is because there's also a stay in the thing, but the final stay is when he's yelling to Murph.
Oh,
and that one is
that
just
is
so
pretty good.
beautiful. And then also
I don't know which
Detached-
ones are which, but I like the
Detached
one
when
where
he's, like-
it's called Mountains that I like, that that suspense that builds,
Uh-huh.
the ticking of the clock that plays in the mountains part, and then the other one is it's the really peaceful one that's like kind of whimsical. It's like dun 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 dun. It just keeps going back and
That's
forth.
Stay.
And it's very beautiful. Yes, that's the one. I remember the title. I couldn't remember the title. Thank you for bringing that. Yeah.
And then the other amazing one is
But it's
Detached
very
when fetching
serene.
Matt Damon's a psychopath and trying to get on the ship.
Dude.
And dude, that music just makes me so
Matt
on edge. And
Damon.
he's like, "Don't do it, it's gonna blow."
This isn't about me. This is about all mankind. We need. He's dead. He doesn't even get to finish his thought. He's just like,
Dude, when he
we
showed up, Ty, how long? Because when I saw him, I'm like, that's not Matt Damon. I didn't see his name in the credits. Like,
Dude, the
they kept
theater.
it so
Oh my
hidden.
gosh, I was blown away. I was blown away. It's like Matt Damon's in this. Like,
I know, I could not believe it.
it was unreal. That was so awesome.
And then my second favorite thing is, obviously I listen to the soundtrack all the time, and then the visuals in this movie are just literally ridiculous. So like on my laptop wallpaper, I have lots of different movie posters and like movie scenes that kind of go through, and I have multiple from Interstellar just because there's so many there's so many shots that I'm just like, holy fudge, dude, this is like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. It's ridiculous. And just like the whole space, like everything they do in space is just like Christopher Nolan, dude. He's a master. It's so beautiful. Like this is a movie that if there was no dialogue, I would just watch it just to listen to the soundtrack and just look at the visuals, man.
Well, this is the perfect movie to play in the background for the music. And then it's also the perfect movie, like you said, to just stare at. It's just so cool visually.
And then you add in the fact that freaking has like Matthew McConaughey and Michael Caine and Matt Damon and what's her name? Catwoman.
Anne Hathaway.
Thank you.
Well, it's so cool because the visuals that he's taken from 2001: A Space Odyssey, he takes a lot of like actual like spaceships and he's crafted these things, and you feel like you're actually in the starship with him. It's so cool. So
Those
good.
the POV shots that they use
Yes.
that look very much GoPro reminiscent, where you have a camera that's
Attached to it.
angled on the actual spacecraft, and you see it go through all
And
these crazy terrains.
And you hear that rickety sound, like it sounds like it's going to tear apart, like when he's going through the black hole. Whoa.
Or the wormhole itself, dude. I think that was my favorite visual.
Yes.
Was the wormhole.
Oh, easily.
Which is it leads into one of my nitpicks again. So we all said our favorite things, but I for some reason I liked the visual of the wormhole more than I liked the black hole, which is weird. But then again, it's like I guess it should be more scientifically accurate because light doesn't pass through there. So, but the wormhole was just so much more beautiful and so trippy. Like you could see like it curving. It's just so unreal. And there's like two reality. It's almost like the paper, like he described. It's folding on itself, and you're traveling through a crazy distance.
Talk about a
through,
director trying to conceptualize and like visualize literally like an unknown scientific fact where it's just like it's all theories.
Yes.
It's like that. The way he
Yes.
did it is so impressive.
Very impressive. And again, to not knock it, because you're right. And then, like the bookshelf is a very memorable looking set design. You know,
Didn't that remind you of Inception a little bit? Like the very bottom universe?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, there was definitely callbacks to.
I thought there
like
were scenes that reminded me of
Limbo,
Ad
but-
Astra. Like when Matt Damon was kind of crazy. It
Very
reminded me
much.
of the dad when he's like,
Yeah, dude. Okay, so I'll be honest. When I saw it in the theater, when I do space movies, I've seen Alien and I've seen lots of space movies. I don't trust anyone that's been alone for too long in a spacecraft. I don't trust. Watch Sunshine. Watch Alien.
gosh,
watch all these movies when there's a guy all alone and they're like, "Oh, there's something wrong with the robot." Oh yeah, I had to decommission him. It's like, why? Ad Astra, Alien, like I said, all the space movies, they have this exact plot where the guy, Sunshine, where the
and
guy's
life,
alone.
there's a
and it's
distress
like,
signal on this thing. It's a fucking baboon. That's a monster. What the F?
oh
Space
my gosh,
baboons.
the Ad
Come on,
Astra.
Earth.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that wasn't life.
That was Ad Astra.
Oh,
That was Ad Astra.
That's what it was, yeah.
Yeah. Freaky as shiz, dude.
Scariest freaking
Oh my
monkeys
gosh,
I've ever
twitching. And then the
Oh,
space monkey.
Space
dude.
baboons, dude. Who thought?
Fetching heck, dude, because holy crap, this like is so crazy. I can't even get over it. Like I even lost my train of thought. I don't even know what I'm saying right now. What is this movie? It's
Ty's watched
bonkers.
too many Christopher Nolan movies. Your brain just exploded inside your
It
head.
is. I'm trying to push it out further and further.
See,
Like
that's
my
what's so funny
ability
about
to
this movie.
comprehend.
This is one of the most linear Christopher Nolan movies, and you find out at the end that it's not linear because he's like traveling through time, and you're like, ah, because you're like following the plot the entire time, and then you're like, it was him all along, and I was like, oh, my brain hurts so much.
Yeah.
Just when I thought Christopher Nolan was gonna let my brain just take a break for one 2.5 hour movie, he's like, just kidding, time is relative, and I'm like, stop.
Which is kind of fun because, yeah, like you said, technically the story does follow pretty linearly because you only see Cooper's journey really, and it never really leaves him.
Also,
so
dude,
you're not jumping around
when they're on the
very often,
planet,
except a few times back
with
on
the
Earth.
ticking
Yeah.
clock, it reminds me of it, when they're on the planet with the ticking clock. It reminds me of Invincible, when the people, he's like, they came back in 3 days and they've solved like the problem to the aging. He's like, 3 days for us. He's like, tens of thousands of years for them.
Well, like Ty said, there's like, I feel like a lot of inspiration taken like from Rick and Morty and shows like Invincible are taken from stuff like this. I
And of course,
wonder...
Cube 2 Hypercubed. I think that was made before this, so it was probably the original. I'm sure Christopher Nolan drew everything he knew from this movie.
The OG.
I don't know. You watch a movie like Following, you're like, that guy knew how to write stories. I'll just put it that way.
And
So,
he's a little
I
strange
will
human being, too.
Yes. Guys, I gotta say, this movie made me so emotional. Let's get into this real quick. All the the allegory of, the savior of the world. You have, Matthew McConaughey's character who ends up making a self-sacrifice, much like the savior of the world, to save mankind, because ultimately Anne Hathaway's character can go on, but there's not enough fuel for the entire hub or whatever, so he ends up going back into the black hole. So, the man that was sent to save mankind descends below them all, goes into the literal pit of hell, through a black hole. And what's incredible is that the ghost they keep mentioning is kind of like a manifestation of the Holy Spirit. And, he sacrifices himself, and then there's this ultimate higher being, these fifth dimensional beings that are reaching down to help. They're kind of like a father figure, but also, you know, you have Matthew McConaughey's character also acting like a father figure to Murph, you know, so you can have like the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. The 12 astronauts you mentioned earlier, yeah, there's a lot. Well, the 12 astronauts all sent out to go, you know, find a future, right? Like, and after Christ died and was killed, the apostles had to go on and carry his mission. So all of them trying to figure out how to get off of Earth and find a new home to inhabit was like a very self-sacrificing mission, because just about all of them died, which is exactly what happened.
Isn't it interesting, too, when they based all their scientific evidence and stuff off of it, they go to, his name is actually Man, Matt Damon's character, and so they go to Man based on science, and it's a complete disaster and a failure.
Yes.
And
it's fabricated.
And it's the when the girl that basically...
Which just goes to show, everything they're teaching in science class is fake, guys.
No. That's not the case at all. But then it's based off of Faith and her love for, you know, the other character, that there actually is a planet. You know, she bases it off of love.
Yes.
Yeah.
Talk about
now,
the
I will
saddest
say,
thing
that's
ever,
my
though, is
nitpick.
when she fetching just gets to the planet just by herself, and you're like, wait, no, they found a solution.
Yeah, they found a solution anyway. Like, she's all alone, but he can go rescue her, and she can either go live there, or we can all come there. I mean, like, I guess if you want to live on a spinning planet forever, they'll have to get off that spacecraft somewhere, right? That's what I figure. That's how the movie ends. They all go inhabit her planet, right?
And then you get Pandorum.
Zombies. Oh my gosh, you get 28 weeks later or something like that. Something bad goes wrong. Pandorum. That's hilarious. Yeah, that's the other space movie. Never trust the guy that's been in there for way too long. He's like, oh, something happened to all the crew. It's like, what happened to him? He's like, oh, I don't know. They all wanted to turn back, and you were like, no, we must press on at all costs. Guys, so I love the allegory stuff, and that's what made me is very emotional watching it this time, because it's very much that story, you know? So absolutely loved it. Very emotional watching it. And watching home videos of family growing up. The time relativity in this movie is so well done. Like you said, it happens in contact with her. Like, you were only gone for a split second. She was like, I was gone for hours. This one's like, we went to a planet and we were going to be right back when we found out it was a failure. And it was so stressful. I didn't catch it the first time I watched it. When they go down there, they said her stress beacon was going on. How was it still working when she had been blown away? And she goes, well, from the time that we entered into its orbit, she had been processing. She might have been just killed moments before we got there, which was so stressful because, again, that failed mission. And at the very end, just to twist the knife into your wound when you already feel like you failed so miserably, they cut back to a scene where our poor, what was his name? The
black guy.
Brand. Was it? Yeah, the guy from Hunger Games. He's lying face down in the water dead. Like, it's just like we failed miserably, and then you get back up and you find out that 27 years has passed, and he's like, it just seemed wrong to sleep my life away. That is so emotional. And then he sits down. You're like, I can't be punished anymore. And then he sits down and has to listen to his daughter saying, like, you promised me that you'd be here when we were the same age. Well, you should probably come back soon because I'm now your age that you were when you left. And it's too much. It's too much. It's too punishing. Everyone on Earth is dying, and Matthew McConaughey failed. The first planet they go to failed, and it's so fetching stressful. And they lost an actual astronaut there, and it's too much to bear. It's so painful.
Well, and it's wild that they landed, and she's like, we missed her by like an hour or two.
Yeah, because the distress signal, right? It's like, how did they get that out to us? It's like, because it's been transmitting forever. It's like, no, we got there just moments before she got wiped away, right? It's just so devastating. Okay. So
hey, but we just gotta address that Mars or Stars, whatever his name is. He's the real hero. Tars. That's what it is. Yeah.
Tars is a hero, man. He carried him halfway. It really stressed me out, though, like that the Hunger Games guy just stood there while Tars did all the work. It's like, you could be making your way back to the ship, and you could have been there already. I'm just saying. It stressed me out. Because I watched it this time, and I was like, I guess he was concerned for Anne Hathaway, but it's like, either run that way or run that way. You're just standing there. Kind of stressed me out. So, and then it gets washed away, and then they leave him, and it's very sad.
That reminded me of Life of Pi, that wave, man.
Gosh, yeah, just unbelievable wave. Like, we want to talk about movie waves, like this
Poseidon.
Yeah, I literally was just about to say like Poseidon, but I was like, that one looked more devastating. But this wave, there's nothing that compares to this thing. Like,
with the
it was
score
so monumental. It freaks me out. and just riding the wave too, that windsurfing, and where he has to peel out of there and fly out, and like he turns the ship sideways and he's like cresting. It's so crazy.
And then riding it back down.
Yeah, when they get to the top and they're like, oh shoot, they start going down the backside. It's so crazy, and then they just keep coming. You're like, these giant swells. It's just unreal. It's unreal. Giant waves. Can't live on this planet. Oh my gosh, so stressful. So that was crazy. And then the whole scene where they find Matt Damon, like he wakes up, the robot's being decommissioned. Oh, and the scene drags on for so long because he sits around and he's telling him all these good things about the planet, and it's all fabric. It's all a lie. The fetching Matt Damon lied to you. The Earth's surface, there's breathable air down there. We could survive. Plants. We're gonna have we could all live here. And then eventually it was just like, I decommissioned the robot. I can fix him. No, don't fix the mainframe or whatever. And he's like, I'll be there. Don't worry. And he's like, oh, okay. And then he goes out with Cooper. And while they're out there, he's telling him this really eerie stuff where he's just like, they say right before you die, you see your loved ones. You're like, why are you talking about this stuff? And then, when he starts smashing his helmet, tries to kill, what does he do? He pushes him off first. I can't remember what he does, right? He takes off his little comms thing so they can't hear him, throws that down, and then he proceeds to try to push him off, and then he grabs on, and then he climbs down and kicks his hands. He's freaking murdering him. It's terrifying. And then they both end up down there, and then he starts smashing his helmet against his, and he's like, 50-50 chance yours is going to crack. It's like, that's the best odds I've had in years. It's like, I've been tested. You haven't been tested like me. I'm sorry, but I can't bear to watch you, What a coward Matt Damon was. It was so painful to see him in such a cowardly role. Oh, my gosh. Guys, that whole scene, and then it just leads up to him
Matt
getting
Damon
into the
in
hole.
space?
He refuses to listen.
The Martian.
Yeah,
Best
Matt Damon in space. I know, right? Best comedy, guys. You know what's so funny about that is Matt Damon has been typecasted as a character that needs Saving Private Ryan, this movie Interstellar, and then Martian.
Jason Bourne, though, he doesn't exactly need much saving.
He doesn't need saving in that. But it is funny that three of his movies is we all got to get him back, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that was funny. All that's just amazing. Do you guys have any nitpicks about this movie? Other than my one nitpick, I would say, and I almost don't fault it now, but the whole speech that Anne Hathaway gave, where I was like, you know what? She's making her case. She's trying to make it sound nice to be like, hey, let's go to the person I love, let's go to that planet. And in the end, I'm kind of glad they decided not to, based on everything she was saying. It's like, you're crazy. You're just basing it off of emotion. We're going to go off of science, and ultimately it does fail them. But it was only due to cowardice. Yeah, it was due to cowardice because of Matt Damon.
Science.
But they had no reason. So it's it kind of reminds me of Donnie Darko. It's every decision is fear or love. It's and then Jake Gyllenhaal. I don't think you can base it off of everything gets categorized in two categories.
You can't just put it all on a
spectrum. You can't put it all on a spectrum. But that's what it was. Matt Damon made a decision of fear. He was afraid that he was going to be left alone, not ever wake up. So he literally went to sleep after all of his materials had gotten exhausted. He couldn't survive anymore, so he goes to sleep. Oh my gosh, it's so terrifying.
Woke
and
up
those
an
sleep
old baked
chambers,
potato.
oh my gosh, I would never go to sleep in one of those.
That's what you are.
Making big
old
potatoes
potato.
out of his poop. I'm going to science the shiz out of that. Oh, wait, that's not the same movie. Okay. That's what he said when he woke up. Yeah, the visuals in this movie, I don't have too many other nitpicks other than just the idea at the very end when he's in the bookcase and he's like, it's love. That's what brought me to Murph. And I'm like, that's fine if he wants to say it. But in the end, I'm like, it's probably the fifth dimensional beings that are bringing this down to you,
The
right?
only thing that I kind of have a
love.
nitpick for is just I don't know. If I saw a watch twitching, I think I would throw it away and not be like, someone's trying to send me coordinates from the space, fourth dimension.
Hey, but to be fair, they knew it was the watch because he said that I gave it to her. And then also they had already found coordinates. So she knew that there actually was messaging. There was a reason they found a secret base.
Yeah.
So to be fair,
Though,
but you're right. I initially wouldn't think
I'd be
that.
like, what the F is wrong?
Or the bookcase.
Yeah,
the bookcase.
The magnetic thing is off, but yeah. Okay,
But also to be fair,
so
if books started
satisfying.
falling out of your
That's so
yeah,
satisfying watching the dust fall into the specific way. I'm like, oh, what the fuck?
The Morse code, yeah, the dust.
I think
Very
the
cool.
only thing that maybe, I honestly think this is almost a perfect movie, but just the scene where he says it was us.
There is no almost.
Well, he was like, it's us. I just would have left it more ambiguous, what it could be. Like, let people make up their own
Right.
minds. I don't know. It's just
Right.
like,
Well, and again, to be fair, like Matthew McConaughey said that because that's what he believes, but we don't know that for sure.
That's true. That's true.
Because
Yeah.
technically it wasn't us. It was you in a loop that was created by fourth, fifth dimensional beings. Now, whether or not
You know
human
what
beings
other
can actually
movies do loops?
become that.
Project Almanac.
oh, jeez.
I thought you were going to say Looper. Oh, that one does a loop. Oh, man. And it's a bit of a loop. It's a bit of a stretch, if you ask me. So, weirdly enough, this idea that, okay, so real quick, Neil deGrasse Tyson explained dimensions, right? So, you have a dot on a piece of paper, right? 1 point, that's one dimension, right? A dot. And then you have 2 dimensions, which is a line. So, you have length. And then he says you have
Ty guy,
two-dimensional.
the science guy. Ty.
Or no, so a line, maybe it's a square, a 2-dimensional, right? You could draw a square, and it has length and width, right? Or height and width, or whatever.
And then you
it
could
is,
make a
right?
cube.
And then you make a cube, which
then
is
it's
3-dimensional, which is the
cube
world we live
two,
in and
hypercube.
perceive.
Then it's hypercube.
And then the 4th dimension, so basically how he described it, that he goes, imagine an ant. And he goes, now technically an insect has 3 dimensions, but let's say for the sake of the argument that an ant is a 2-dimensional being. And then all of a sudden you put your hand down where that ant is, and then all of a sudden it has no idea where this hand came from, and it's your hand. And it's a 3-dimensional being reaching down to you on your level on 2 dimensions, right? And you can only see the hand, you can only perceive the hand. So when I think of these 5th dimensional beings or 4th dimension, whatever they are, reaching down to us, like in this dimension, it's crazy, like, right? Because it's width times length times height, and then times
My geometry class.
yeah.
Side
no,
equals
but then
side,
4th
length
dimension
times
is
width.
time. Slow down. So length and width, and then height,
Find
right?
the
So you have
of
volume,
this cylinder.
and then time. Time is the 4th dimension, right? So the wormhole, human beings could theoretically experience 4 dimensions, right? Because he could theoretically jump through wormholes and experience time at different areas. Whatever. We're not good at manipulating it, though, because obviously they fail many times with time in this movie. And one of my favorite lines from Michael Caine in this movie, he's like, I'm a physicist. I don't fear death. I fear time. It's so freaking intense. So freaking good, because he respects what is time, right? He respects the thing that we understand is time. So after that, a 5th dimensional being, basically, like the ant analogy, like a hand comes down. Like, that's basically how I view this. There's a 5th dimensional being that's like, let me help you 3-dimensional beings out. Because we'll create this box for you to help you perceive what's happening, and you're going to manipulate through time and space to get a message across so you can become saved, I guess, right? Like get off of the planet Earth, lift this entire space station up, because that was plan A, right? So in the end, you're right. Is it ambiguous? Like, do I actually believe that, like, I guess human beings are supposed to, are they supposed to become eventually 4th or 5th dimensional beings? Is that what I'm meant to understand?
I haven't.
See, that's why when you say it's us, it's like, is us from the future? Technically, I guess you could say, but I guess like
But time is
millions of years of
relative,
evolution,
yeah.
you would become, right? It could be. So I almost don't take as much issue.
I have a quick,
Yeah.
a quick nitpick. Can we just address how neglected Casey Affleck was? Man, literally the entire show
Yes.
revolves around Murph, and he's just like, take care of everything, okay, son? All right, see ya.
To be fair, though, like, I actually got the vibe that the son was super independent. Like, I know it is a little funny because they don't care about him, but like, ultimately, I liked his character. Like,
I loved his character.
He was really good. Like, because Timothy Chalamet did a good job, and Casey Affleck looks so much like him. That was a really good cast pick there.
Casey Affleck.
But he's grown up and he's got kids, and he's like, eventually, when he just, his dad wasn't responding back, he never got any messages. He's like, maybe he just ultimately forgot about us, and so he kind of like anti-science. It was a little sad to see him like, I guess I'll let all my kids die of whooping cough. Like, he still should have cared about his family, but he's like, I swear off science. There'll be no science or medical science in this household. It's like, chill, dude. Ease up, My goodness.
Did you really have to burn his crops, though? Come on, son.
So, did he have to burn? Yeah, and then I love how he just
Aren't you
stands
struggling
there and looking.
enough?
He's like, oh, the fire's finally put out. Oh, they're coming this way. He just kept standing there. I'm like, go inside and help her, or stop talking. I guess they needed Topher Grace to do something, but it's just really funny to see him in this movie. But I like how he was there that Jessica Chastain could plant a kiss on his face. That was a sweet kiss. Eureka! And she threw the gravity plans. I'm like, wait! Like, don't throw
I know.
the
What if
equation
the
to
watch
save,
stopped
like-
working? And I was like, oh no.
I'm sure she had it written down somewhere else, like on a whiteboard, but still. Yeah, and then, like, the janitor comes by and he's like, oh, I erased it all, man. I erased all of the Earth's gravity equation. I thought you were done with this. And she's like, oh my gosh, you've doomed all mankind.
Or just a guy with
Pedro.
a big vacuum thing like going by and just sucking it all up.
I'm very well aware how racist I was being with my accent, but what's even more sad is that I assumed that the janitor would be Mexican. Maybe he found the coordinates because he had a spirit too, okay? I thought that was really crazy. Guys, the noble lie in this movie, you know what it is, right? The noble lie? Christopher Nolan, he just can't let it go without giving a noble lie. You know what it was? Michael Caine, again, kind of like The Prestige, he lies and he's like, we've got plan A and plan B. And then Matt Damon in space, he's all like, oh, gravity? Yeah, we already have it solved and everything. Like there's no way to get that space station off of ground. You need to start colonizing this planet with plan B with all the little tiny egg embryos. You're like, oh my gosh. And he's like, you knew? And then Jessica Chastain learning that right before he dies, he's like, I'm sorry. I sent him up there. He didn't need to go. Like, I just wanted one more person, I guess, to go live a life out there and explore. It's so disturbing.
Send him
It's
away
so
from his
sad.
family.
I know. And he's like, did you know that the freaking was so heartbreaking?
Hey, but Jordan,
Oh my
don't go
gosh.
quiet into that dark night.
Yeah, but yeah. Yeah, touchdown. Don't play Oh my gosh. Okay, so real quick, the last thing I wanted to say is this whole thing about this controversy about love being the thing that transcends time and all that space. In the end, I just think the fifth dimensional beings were using materials that third dimensional people and beings would understand. So like, oh, you care about somebody, so you're going to try to make this significant leap into saving your species, right? Because again, like I said, I don't understand the implication of the movie is that they're going to now get off of Earth. Are they going to eventually evolve into becoming beings that are fifth dimensionals? I don't know. Like through millions of years of evolution. And I know what you said about time being relative, but maybe like eventually you'll be living out in space for so long, you'll become this giant alien brain, right?
Become a Martian.
Who knows, right? And see, like I said, it's kind of like my analogy with the hand coming down helping the ant on the tabletop. It's like it was out of mercy, right? Because they were like, oh, why did they do it? It's love. It's love that makes it all do this. Like that's what Matthew McConaughey says, and he goes, "This is us from the future," or whatever. And it's like,
Do you think this is Christopher Nolan being meta, talking about like he's essentially making a movie for his kids and be like, this is why I can't spend time with you kids. I have to make these movies.
Hey, I like that. And you know what's really cool? It's like technically it's kind of like seeing the rift of the film. I kind of got that vibe when he's like messing with the light and like Morse coding. It kind of made me think of a film reel of like a guy tweaking with like the editor tweaking with a movie. It's like to make this work, like it's almost breaking the fourth wall in a way. I almost felt that way, like the way this movie works, right? It almost feels like he's breaking the fourth wall at the final act where he's in the bookcase, a three-dimensional cube that they built for him to
Dude, talk
communicate
about
with his
how
daughter.
much this is like our society today. The whole scene where he's like, oh, I think I'm going to take her to that ball game. You know, I know she likes...
I love it. Yeah, they're like, your daughter, believed in the moon landing and it didn't really happen. It was a bit of propaganda. And he's like, what, you don't really think we went to the moon? Which, okay, real quick question. Do you guys not think we went there? I actually thought, like, for my entire life that I do, and then I read all this stuff online, and I'm like, I don't know what to believe
No, I
anymore.
100% believe you have to watch a video. There's a video video essay about this. So they talk about how it's impossible because of the film equipment that wasn't available to do this. It's like a 8-minute video. You just need to watch it.
I've heard that, but I heard eventually that we eventually did end up getting there, right? Is that
Maybe
correct?
today,
Yeah, we did eventually, but
not at the time.
Yeah.
Just watch the video.
Not
I'll
at the
send you the
time.
video. Tie it.
Well, Stanley Kubrick, like that's the whole reason for The Shining. Like half of it was him saying he was a part of it.
faked
kind
the
of
moon
thing.
landing,
Yeah,
right.
he faked it.
But again, not going to give my hot take about it yet. I'm going to do more research. But I do remember going to the Air and Space Museum in D.C. when I was in 7th grade. And the guy was with me. And after we watched the movie, we get out. And the guy, he's one of the chaperones in our group. And he scoffs. And he goes, it's all fake. He's like, that never happened. And I was like, what? Like, because you watch it. And it's like, it explains the whole mission that they had, the race they had, all that stuff. And I know there was so much
that
at
was
stake.
like that movie not The Help, but the movie about all those black women that helped.
Hidden Figures.
Hidden
Yeah.
Figures. Like Mom showed me that, and it was like all the black women that helped the first moon landing.
Super good movie. Yeah.
Well, but the sad part is that, like, well, if it was all fake, then they did nothing.
Hey, they made it believable so much that the Soviet Union sunk all of their resources and
That's true.
bankrupt themselves to get there. So
Good point.
Pretty effective way of getting rid of a superpower for a Cold War. But you're right. Like, but you know, it's
It did
like,
what
okay,
it set
so
out politically to do.
Yes, exactly. And I thought it was really funny because she says the word propaganda, and ultimately it doesn't really matter to me now because it's like, okay, in the past, whatever, like they had to do what they had to do. But I'm like, I do believe we've been up to space, right? Like, I mean, we obviously have rovers on Mars, so it's like we've definitely got it.
We've got all these satellites in space.
But I loved how they talked about that. They're like, okay, so we were all looking up to the stars. We're frontiersmen. We're pioneers. We should be looking up to the stars instead of just looking down at the ground, worrying about our planet here on the dirt. You know, I love that line. Like, he is an explorer. He's meant to be a pioneer and a pilgrim, a frontiersman. It's so good. But man, it's bleak and it's sad. It's hard at times to watch. Like, it was really hard to watch him leave his family this time. The first time it didn't bother me. Because I'm like, yeah, go save the planet. Like, obviously. And in this one, it's like, you didn't really need to go. It's like, oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, somebody had to get the go behind the black hole and go through it. So,
well, that wasn't even the plan because according to Michael Caine, he didn't believe it. He's like, that's it. Like, they're going to go start Earth with the plan B because he didn't believe in plan A. He's like, I gave it my whole life's work. And at the end, he's like, I didn't think plan A was ever going to work.
Well, but then either way, he would have done the right thing because he did save the Earth by going inside the black hole and getting the quantum numbers and stuff.
It's very good that he did go. Yes, I get what you're saying. It's a very good thing that he went. What's
Well,
really
regardless,
scary
he
is
would have
like,
started. He'd have done Plan B. That's what Jordan's saying.
Here's the other thing too. If they hadn't gone to Matt Damon's planet first, Matthew McConaughey may not have been desperate enough to go through the black hole and do all that stuff.
So in reality, Matt Damon saved
Matt Damon blew up
humankind.
the planet. No, because if they listened to stupid Anne Hathaway's plan about loving the person and going to the other planet, they would have been stuck and marooned there, and then no one else on Earth would have been able to hear them and get back up to them without Earth's gravity. Not without the equation, which he ended up getting. And Tars had it, but he didn't know how to relay it. He didn't know how to relay it to them, but he goes, I can give it to you, and you can just give it to them on Earth. And he ends up Morse coding it, but it's so good because Tars couldn't communicate him until he was there in
Do you know how they got out of the black hole? It's the
dimension.
fifth dimensional beings that kicked them out, right?
I think so. I think the fifth dimensional beings, basically, like I said, my analogy, it's pick up the ant and put it back in its anthill. Like, I put it right back where it's at home. And see, you might think it's a Deus Ex Machina, but it's like, yeah, but like, if you think about it, how on earth do you depict a fifth dimensional being? Like, and it's a film, so, you know, it could be something like you know, it reminds me of the movie that you reviewed, Soul. It's like maybe kind of like how they depicted those two-dimensional beings. It's like we've shaped our way this way just so you could view us or understand what we are. Like, we're intelligence, basically, right? Like, you don't necessarily have to have a shape, but we're doing it so you can like view us
Comprehend
and understand us.
yeah.
Yeah, comprehend. Yeah, exactly. Like, you technically never see the being, but you see the box they create for him, and then they end up closing it out and then putting him right back where he belonged, where he could be picked up. And they're like, oh, you were just minutes from your oxygen, and you're like, oh, that was lucky. It's like, no, they literally put him there in their path to pick him up.
Well, that's
to be
the
saved.
fascinating thing about Arrival is like aliens trying to give us something we can comprehend, which is language, because
Yes,
they
loved
don't
Arrival.
they
That's
don't
another
communicate
great
through
movie.
language
Yes.
because that's not necessary.
Yeah, like they can understand each other when they just go up to each other, right? They understand, they can hear thoughts, right? Telekinetic or telepathic. And and they have to use things that we can understand. And that's right. This movie is very much like Arrival too. So anyway, I could gush on and on about the movie, and it's like, I guess we don't even need to go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, the music is so good. I just love the science behind it though, because I'm scratching my brain trying to understand. It's like, I guess in the end, fifth dimensional beings made it all happen. And whatever Matthew McConaughey was saying, is he an unreliable narrator, I guess? Because he's like, it's us from the future. It's like, I guess if someday you're going to become a fifth dimensional being, but I don't know.
Favorite
I
phrase,
just,
unreliable
I know. I actually
narrator.
intentionally use that. I intentionally use that because in the movie we're to believe that it's love that made all this possible. But I'm like, yeah, I think it's the fifth dimensional beings. Awesome movie. I freaking love it. And it's very powerful. It's very emotional. The music swells. I listened to the soundtrack after the movie was done, and I just couldn't stop getting that organ music out of my head. Only twice did it bother me. The first time he looks out the window and you see the dust planet and the crops, for some reason the organ was just like, it's just kind of, it took me, because I was like, oh, I don't remember it being that obvious. Like, I remember it being more subtle. And throughout the movie it is. And then there's one other time where they're spinning and like the organ, or no, it's like through the wormhole. After they get out of the wormhole, the organ's like, and then they lay off of the organ and it goes quiet. So it like literally sounded like someone was playing the organ and like let off of it and like the music stopped. It just seemed like the end of a a song. It just seems strange to me. But it was very eerie to have the silence. When they go out in space the first time, he did that really, really well.
And
I'm
hey,
talking
You look
too
like
much
you're
on this
conducting.
podcast, yeah.
You're like moving your arms around and wailing.
Guys, I'm talking about this movie. I love this movie. And guys, this moved up in my Christopher Nolan ranks. This is my second favorite Christopher Nolan
my
film.
third.
Seriously.
second, the baby.
Insomnia is better.
So emotional. My
Okay,
goodness.
dude, did you know that this that Steven Spielberg was originally planned to direct this movie in 2006? Yeah.
Oh, in 2006.
Uh-huh.
They wouldn't have had the visuals
and
to
he
do this. No
hired
way.
Jonathan Nolan to write the screenplay, but then he ended up choosing other projects, and so then in 2012, after Spielberg left, Jonathan Nolan suggested the project to his brother Christopher Nolan. Pretty crazy, right?
Oh, man. I'm so grateful. So grateful you did. Okay, so let's get into quotes real quick. So I like that the acronym for TARS or whatever they kept calling him, he was like a technically artificial robotic system or whatever. And then all of TARS lines were super funny. I loved every time he was like calibrating him. And he's like, humor, 90%. And he's like all sarcastic, and then he keeps bringing it down. It's like 75%. You want to hear a joke or whatever? Self-destruct in, 10, 9. He goes, humor down to 65. Knock, knock. Like, he keeps saying jokes that are not, like, I don't know, outlandish. It was really funny. Love that whole scene. Like, TARS was, like, one of the
robots
coolest
are my
robots.
favorite. Seriously,
Yeah, they're
TARS and
super
Mars.
cool.
Love
TARS and
them.
Mars were
And
super cool.
did you know
Super
TARS,
awesome.
like, majority of his shots were not computer, were not CGI. It was actually like a practical.
Is that right?
A,
They
a practical
built
puppet
a
control,
giant robot.
and voiced by Bill Irwin.
That was so cool.
Yeah,
So cool.
He's like TARS talks for both of us.
Yeah. When she's like, say less is more or whatever. 90% truthfulness, 10% lie, right? Because it's easier to mitigate you humans. You're very emotional, and then you'll turn into Matt Damon and murder me.
Ty, I actually quoted that to my girlfriend last night, just telling her, because she's like, we need to be 100% honest with each other, and I was like, you don't want me to be 100% honest. You want me like
90%
90%.
90%. Yeah. Keep it 90 exactly. So other quotes that you guys had from the movie?
I thought the one that was super cool by Cooper was when he was like, "Mankind was born on Earth; it was never meant to die here."
No, it's a great line. Great line. There was one quote. It was right after he made a touchdown. He said, "Do not go gentle into that good night." Yes.
I promise,
Oh, wait,
Cameron,
that
you
wasn't
said it
this
before.
movie.
He said,
Sorry.
"Older age should burn and rave at the close of day. Rage."
No
Rage
children. I
against
remember at the very
dying
end where
light.
she.
Do not go gentle into that dark night.
Good stuff. I like where she's like, no parent should watch their child die. I thought that was a good line, and it's really crazy because she's like way older than him. Pretty crazy moment. I like how they turned his house into a museum. That was really cool. Oh, there was a really meaningful one to me, having kids. It was like, once you're a parent, you're the ghost of your children's future. I thought that was really
that.
well said, because totally true. Like, you don't live your life for yourself anymore. It's kind of crazy. So that was a really good line. And he ends up literally being the ghost, which is pretty cool. Like, on the nose much. But there's your prediction, right? He literally says, you have a ghost, and she wasn't afraid of it. It was giving him, all the hints and everything. So you know how it's going to end. It's a loop. It's one circle.
Oh, two quick, really fun facts is when they were coming up with the music for this, Christopher Nolan didn't want to tell him that it was a space movie. So actually all the organs and stuff was, he just said,
That's so crazy.
I want a
That's so
relationship
crazy.
between a father and a kid. And he didn't tell him that it was a daughter, but he just said it was between him and his child. And so when
crazy.
he wrote that, it was perfect for the movie. I'm so glad.
And did they get like
And
a
then-
400-year-old organ from like? I remember reading
believe
about
it.
that something.
It
that they
sounds
get,
like a haunted house
400-year
organ.
organ from like Russia or something like that. That was like during like the USSR or something like that, and he found it and then he like used it because he just loved the sound or something like that. I remember. Maybe I'm just totally just
I wrote
open my
so
butt.
the two quotes that I always use now is like the scene where they're rotating. He's just like, they have to do an endurance rotation at 76, 78 or 67, 68 RPMs, and they're spinning. And he's like, "Tars, if I pass out, take the controls." Like, that scene is so freaking emotional. And then Anne Hathaway passes out, and he's like barely clinging on. It's so intense. Like, And he's just like, okay, Case, we have to get ready to match our spin with the retro thruster. He's like, it's not possible. He's like, no, it's necessary. Like, they have
he
to
says,
do
I'm going to
this.
dock. We're going to dock. And then the
We're gonna
music comes
dock.
in. That's what I was trying to remember.
We're going to dock, and then they're spinning, and then they're like trying to match up where they are. That's so intense. And then one other lighter quote that I wrote was when Tars was talking, he's like, everybody good? Plenty of slaves for my robot colony? I like that because, again, lots of movies where the robots take over. You know, maybe think of iRobot and all those other movies, but felt with a good sense of humor. I thought that was funny. But any other quotes you guys have?
Ty likes slave robots. Did you not learn anything from Blade Runner, Ty?
Or even the Solo movie? No, I didn't finish it.
Oh my gosh, blah.
Fembot 2000.
And dude, Interstellar's only said once in this movie. It's at the midpoint of the movie.
Oh, beautiful. Where it's folded over each other, right? The movie folds on itself. I don't know. Dude, the science in this movie just hurts my head. It's so freaking good.
And obviously we recommend this movie because it's amazing.
Yeah. Is there anything else you guys want to throw out there about Interstellar? I gushed about it. I had to get that off my chest, though, because I hope you guys can forgive me for ranting and raving on. I feel like a madman trying to understand this movie. I really do. It's crazy. It's so freaking good. I'll just say, guys, the most important quote of the movie is, love is the one thing we're capable of perceiving that transcends time and space. Shut up, Anne Hathaway. Don't you have I dreamed of a dream of a time gone by? Go back to singing in Les Mis. Stupid. Anyway, I just thought it was funny that she's like, let me give a really, really lengthy explanation of why we should go because I miss my husband or whatever. I miss my boyfriend. Anyway.
Space boyfriends.
And then Murph's Law, right? Anything that can happen will happen. Like,
and the part where she's like, look, and she reaches out and shakes that hand, like, the guy's like, no, wait! Like, oh my gosh, that gave me chills the first time. I'm like, what the fudge was that?
I know. I thought he was going to, she was going to get
pulled
sucked
into,
through or something.
Yeah.
Or eaten, right? Like, we don't know if they're friendly. But
could be a space baboon.
Pretty cool that it was Cooper on his way back out. That was pretty cool. He's letting him know. He's like, hi.
Well, and I guess that's my only nitpick is when afterwards they breeze over that. She's like, first handshake. And then it was like never brought up again. I'm like, aren't you guys going to talk about how like insane that was? Like, I guess.
Right. Yeah. It's like, what? Like, yeah. But again, it's like, how do they know that was a handshake? Like,
yeah.
It just looked like a filter where it twists your hand, you know? Like when you go on iPhoto and you put on that twisty filter, it's like, I guess that's a fourth dimensional being reaching through the camera. I don't know. I don't get it. And then, of course, the mountains that were waves. It was so good. Just so good. Matt Damon, all of his lines, dude. He's like, I'm sorry, I can't listen to you suffer. Whatever. He like,
I thought I could.
Unplugs his mic. Yeah, he's like, I thought I could. I can't. It was so good. Oh my gosh, that was so great. He's like, I'm doing this for humanity. He was the worst. Matt Damon was the worst. I always love John Lithgow, you know. The baseball, they're watching, like, what was it, the New York Mets or somebody, like...
I want a hot dog.
Or was the Mets, or... I want a hot dog, not popcorn. But what was it was like the famous baseball, the New York Yankees, that's what it was. And it was like, they were like just nobodies, right? Like, and it was like a high school diamond, right? And like, he's like, they used to be a really good team, but like, they still keep some entertainment around because they're on Earth. Everyone's just like depressed and bored.
Or John Lithgow, pull your weight, young man.
Pull your weight, young man. Dude, John Lithgow, man.
Get married.
Get married. That's right. Yeah, we gotta work on okra. Oh, those crops are gonna die. It's like so funny.
Every time I hear okra, I think Oprah. Anyways.
I thought of Okja.
Okja? Oh my gosh, dude. Oh, this maneuver's gonna cost you us 51 years. It's like, oh my gosh, you don't sound so bad for a man pushing 120. And then he gets up out of bed. He's like, Bertie, slow down, old timer. You're not a spring chick anymore. You're like 150 years old or whatever. I thought that was really funny. But
I know that poor black astronaut dude, he got the worst end of it. Like, stayed in space forever, got old, and then when he finally got to the next planet, it exploded.
Yeah, the guy blew up the freaking spacecraft. Dude, that guy, Matt Damon, you bad man. Bad man. He killed them all.
Hey, but without him, Matthew McConaughey wouldn't have been desperate, so who's the real hero?
I know. Matt Damon is the hero of this movie. Oh my gosh.
The ends justify the means.
Guys, this movie is so crazy. There's so much to talk about, but we got to end this sometime. So let's just loop it all back around and say the first thing we said about this movie. Say it, don't spray it, you know? Everybody PCN to you, you know? That's how you fold it on itself. It's one circle. It's always continuing. I'm just going to say Tenet makes a little more sense because they're trying to stop a disaster rather than, like, create something. Does that make sense? But then again, fifth dimensional beings, they can do whatever they want, right? That's what I understand about it. But right, because I could crush an anthill, I wouldn't do it, but I could save an ant, right?
We get it with
and
the
help
ant.
them.
Oh my gosh.
It was a good analogy, wasn't it? I found that from Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about I don't know if it was Monsters Inc. or something
it
like
wasn't
that.
your analogy. You've been milking that like freaking all day.
But it's the only way I can understand this movie because I don't get the fifth dimensional beings. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Never will.
But that helped me. Never will. Is that right? Are we destined to never understand this movie? Christopher Nolan, I need to talk with you. I have so many questions. Guys,
You and every
leave us an
other
email,
viewer.
futuremovies@gmail.com. Make sure you leave us a review, 5 stars. If you're listening on YouTube, make sure you like and then push the notification bell. Leave us a comment or an email, futuremovies@gmail.com. Tell us if you want to review us to review a movie, or tell us that something about a movie that we reviewed, a comment that you'd like to make.
Check us out on Spotify and Patreon.
You heard it here first, folks. Everybody, this is Futro Hidden Movie Gem signing out. Peace. Jordan, before you go, just do not go into the dark night. Don't go into the dark night.
Do not go into the dark night.
Touchdown. Never happened. Say it, don't spray it. Matthew McConaughey. All right.